yourself or your position?
Sure. So we obviously we're architectural, and we would be doing that part of whatever work needs to be done over the summer, for the summer, or any of the other projects that you have come along. We have done a number of these projects with these guys, and we can certainly get into those at another point. This is your primary discussion tonight. Projects all around the area. Kelly certainly knows from his past school district, Bucks County across the street, all of those kinds of projects, and so we have a pretty significant background in the area. We're in Manioc, so that's our office location.
And for everybody, that is our architectural partner. We did talk in the interview that we aren't architects. It's one thing that we really don't do in-house, other than site. I'll introduce Mark to my right here next. But the one thing that I do want to point out was pretty interesting when we brought Schrader on is that we found out Bruce was actually lived in the district here in Penridge, so that's nice to have that tie to the local district, but to have that as part of the team and part of our partnership going forward. And to my right, like I said, is the other thing that we don't do in-house is a site civil engineering. Mark Karowski of K&W, I do believe had an opportunity to interview with the board when you guys were going through the interview process, but is also a member of our team. We're representing us on the site civil side.
That's me.
And you know where I live. So.
Yeah, right. And now you all know that if you're tracking somebody down from this group, it's not me. It's Bruce.
This makes the song.
Yeah.
He responds to the bat signal.
Yeah, right. Real quick, our agenda tonight is pretty brief. We have a status update on the facility study, so we'll talk a little bit about that, where we're at. Pretty much everybody here at this table, actually everyone at this table has been involved with the study at this point. So we'll introduce that and what we've done. We have our summer 2020 scope of work is proposed. We have what we call project selection menu tonight. We usually call it project selection matrix. It's just line item scopes of work and costs. You're used to seeing them that way, I think, from past reports. And then we can talk about schedule, project timeline, and the procurement and rental approach if you all have any questions about that. So jumping into the status and update on our facility study. One thing that I think I had an opportunity to introduce you to in the past, I'll reintroduce you to this, is how we look at a facility study and how we're looking at your school district for what we call long-term facilities maintenance plan. Our first category here is school names. We are going to identify each building. In this study, we have identified 14 facilities, if you include the O&M building, which is the transportation center. In addition to that, we are then going to look at scopes of work in facility categories. Those are identified here in the next column. So what you will see when you see scopes of work is they are going to sit in certain buckets. That's grounds, building code, ADA, security, building envelope, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, just to help you guys identify systems. Because the database that this ultimately will be in, which is powered by Power BI, will be searchable through any one of these mechanisms. And then we have our project location, where that might be located throughout the facility. So now you're getting into locations like the corridors, restrooms, classrooms, etc. We do have a key for prioritization. We do prioritize items from our standpoint, the professional opinion of either ourselves, the architect, or Mark, on a scale of 0 through 5, 5 being the highest priority, 0 being the lowest. We look at priority in 4 different groups. General current condition, we have interconnection with other scopes of work, so we will prioritize based on related scopes of work if we're pursuing a separate scope. We have educational impact, health, safety, and security, and ROI and energy savings, which we'll always discuss. If an item does have an ROI or energy savings return, those two things can be separate as well. And then the last column is owner importance. Each one of these categories will receive a number 1 through 5. They are weighted, so that owner importance typically does have the ability to kind of get a heavy hand. So if you guys want to pull something forward from 2022 to 2021, we're going to put a 5 in that category. That will make sure that that does. That's typically 20% of the weight. You can see here, and this is just a screenshot from our spreadsheet right now. We have finished, actually at this point, I think we've been, all 14 of the facilities were surveyed. This 12 of 14 was as of last Friday. So we do have our scopes of work identified. They are categorized and cataloged in our spreadsheet, which will ultimately look like this. This is a snapshot from the Power BI tool that we will turn over to everybody on the 12th, I believe. We will present that for the first time, the functionality, and what this is. And what you're seeing here, this is just a portal inside of Power BI. It's one of the ways that you can look at your project. This is not your school district, but these are school buildings similar to a district, and that would be your facility. So where you see Alice Smith under school name, it is going to give you per year those dollar totals that will be budgeted per year for the facilities maintenance plan based off prioritization. You You can click into those dollar totals, you can see exactly what they are. You can also identify exactly what percentage we are looking at your building. So how much of that is going to be dedicated to mechanical scopes of work? How much is ADA? How much is code compliance? Also, there will be images of the facility within that. Captures a lot of information, very functional tool. It's something that we can share. It is a cloud-based program, so you guys, anybody who wants to have access to it can have access. So we can provide that access to board members, administrators. We can put certain functionality on the website if you wanted that as well, just so that you can give visual, give people show people what we're doing. Again, those estimated project costs as you proceed out, this is 2017 to 2026 you're seeing. You guys will see, I think we're going to start with 2021 because we have the summer 2020, which we have to prioritize separately because our study is not complete. So we'll start with 2021. We will catalog what we did in 2020, move forward at least 5 years, depending on how far you guys want to project out. Typically, how we do projections is based off the priority it receives. Everything that's like a 3.3 or higher will be 2021. Everything that's a 2.8 or higher falls into 2022 to a certain threshold based off how you guys want to budget annually. So that's kind of how we set that up. It's just a snapshot of what you guys will see. We are going to meet, and just so you all know where we're at on a milestone schedule, how we get to this is we get a project kickoff meeting, a couple actually, in August. I just didn't list all of them. Our biggest meetings were our facility discovery meeting on 9/6. Was really where we started to talk to Kelly about what his concerns within the facility, some of the things that he understood from a maintenance standpoint. We reviewed the Dewey report. We took a lot of information out of that report as well. We had our ideation meeting, which was led by these folks, Trader Group here. That was an opportunity to talk about bigger ideas. So we want to factor that into our prioritization. If there's a plan long term, hey, we know, for example, the South Middle School may need an auditorium, right? So when we make decisions about if we're replacing a chiller, which we're going to discuss, should the sizing be appropriate to support a future auditorium or not? That's at least a decision that you guys are going to have that'll go into the weighting and the prioritization for everybody, just to be transparent about that. And that is what we were trying to draw out of ideation. In addition, Dave drew on some other topics, 21st century learning. We did get to talk to, one that I thought was very interesting was the kitchen consultant, actually not kitchen consultant, it's your kitchen director, director of nutrition internally. And she brought some things to the table that we hadn't seen yet. One was the salt water that we discussed and how that may be affecting some of the equipment. So that was a really good conversation, really good dialogue to have with staff outside of just those that are typically at the meeting. Our next meeting is Friday, it's the facility assessment review. So what we're going to be doing at that meeting is just reviewing this document, sitting down really with Kelly and his staff and the other folks that are in the room, and reporting back to them, this is what we saw. Do you agree? Are there other things that you want on this list? Do you have questions about what the scope of work is? Just trying to get everybody kind of dialed in, talking to them about their prioritization, and then moving forward. So that will happen on this Friday, actually, 10/11. And then our LTFM finalization meeting with our development team is November 1st, and that's where we'll go through this tool for the first time with the administration and everybody that's been on that team. We can make changes, tweaks before we present that to the board. Potential 2020 scopes of work. We had 3 ways to establish priority for 2020 projects. We had to kind of get creative here because it's not coming out of the tool itself. So we talked to the administration. We heard Kelly's concerns from a maintenance standpoint. We talked to Dr. Bolton. We talked with some of the board members that have been represented at those meetings. We've been to some board meetings that we've heard different things from the board. And then the Dewey report. We also considered what Dewey had already prioritized for 2020 and the spends that you guys had allocated. This graph on the right, we did talk about during our presentation, the importance of this is bid timeline. So why we wanted to get in front of you guys in October is that we are looking at mostly GISA scopes of work, those that fit into a GISA project comfortably. What does that mean for the district? We can go develop those scopes of work, bid them out, and bring hard costs back at no risk. So that's really what we're looking for from tonight's meeting is the approval to say, okay, hey, this is what we understand right now as the 2020. Yes, you can go bid this scope of work out. You can come back and present costs with us. And at that point, if you elect to proceed with those projects or some of those projects, you would pay for those costs. If not, we walk away. We're not doing those 2020 projects. We reprioritize. But we do want to take advantage of a competitive bid time right now, being that it is the fall, not the spring. Try to get the best pricing that we can. What came out of that is I have this list here, and really this is the priority list. This is your 2020 list as discussed on Friday. with the administration, the priority scopes of work that we identified, and I'll just say more as immediate maintenance needs. Some of these were from the Dewey list as well, but it's the Dival Elementary School PA and intercom replacement. $82,438 is the budget we have. I believe if you compare that to your study from 2017, it was roughly $77,000 from that study. So that did come out of the Dewey report. Gross Elementary School, which is a generator at Gross. We have the Central Middle School, which is replacing the auditorium HV units. And again, an estimate for that. At South Middle School, it's a new air-cooled chiller. I don't know that that was on the Dewey report, Kelly. I think that was something that came up since that report was finalized.
Correct.
So that was one that's outside of that. It's to address redundancy because one of the chillers is currently down at that building. We have the boiler installation for pool deck. Again, that did come out of that is already prioritized for this summer. We have replaced pneumatic controls. And Kelly, for your purposes, we did refine that scope and really pull out anything that would have been included as part of the DOES project, some smaller scope of work. But that is replacing the pneumatic system that's currently at the high school, putting that on the DDC system that exists there. And then we have to replace the existing oil tank. It's a 10,000-gallon tank at the Transportation and DSC building. For that scope, we have a total, and again, these are budget estimates, of $1.3 million. I think the allotted budget spend for 2020 from the Dewey report was significantly higher than that. We'll talk about what we don't have and why. And I'll come back to that, but where we went further, the second box was board and community priorities. Some of the things that we heard, one of the things that we wanted to present in response to some of these questions was LED lighting. We know that there was some question about district-wide LED lighting, what that payback might be. So we are presenting that tonight as well for you guys to consider, again, as far as an LED project that would be district-wide. We do have pretty good numbers. We've had a couple lighting contractors come in here and be able to survey your facilities and provide solid numbers. What you're seeing on the left-hand side, we're calling the good option, and we're showing the net project cost as well as the simple payback, any project incentives from the rebate tax program. And then on the right-hand side, we're showing a better project. Rick, I don't know if you want to talk about the differences between good and better.
I will. So it's a good project. It's a basic retrofit, so it's what we call a lamp ballast retrofit. So we keep the existing fixtures in place. We put LED tubes in there, basically the same functionality. You have a little bit better coloration in your light, so there's an improvement in the educational environment from it. The big improvement though is energy and then maintenance. These lamps will last at least 10 to 15 years before you have to replace them. So that frees up a lot of time for your maintenance staff to do other things. So it really takes a lot of that maintenance burden off the kids. There's a lot of benefits to this. On the better side, the better option, we're in the classroom spaces only. We use what's called the Troffer kit. And the Troffer kit has a more diffused light to it. So you don't get reflection off your screens or electronic devices. It doesn't wash out the whiteboards. And it also has dimming capability on it. So the teacher can then bring the lights up and down. And the experience we've had from the teachers, and we've installed these in several school districts, is they absolutely love the ability, one, to be able to dim the lights up and down, particularly at the elementary level and middle school level. It actually, they feel like they can control the mood in the classroom by controlling the lights. And also really enhances the e-learning environment within that classroom. So that's why we show that. It is a little more expensive, but if you look at the lighting, it pays for itself in significantly less than the lifespan of the actual lights. So financially, it's a good investment, and it's one that really doesn't have a lot of impact on your overall debt service or your taxes. I mean, I realize you're not borrowing money, but you could look at it more as an ROI. There's a return on investment from it. And then that return can be used in other places. So in the case of the good option, you have $207,000 a year of savings. That's savings that can be used elsewhere. And in addition to that savings, you have, which what we can't count is the labor. The state statutes don't allow us to count labor savings because you're going to have to pay that person anyway. But what it does is it frees them up to do other things. So that's, and the savings there is probably about a half a full-time equivalent employee in a district this size, or half to 3/4 of a person. So it's a pretty significant amount of time that goes into simply replacing lamps that now will not need to be replaced. And we wanted to do this to capture the entire district. So and the stadium's in there, you can see every building's in there, the interior lights, the exterior lights. This can be sliced and diced a lot of different ways. So if you didn't want to bite off the whole thing, you can parse this out. There's really, there's economy up to a point, but breaking this apart is really not going to be a problem in terms of cost, other than the escalation with, the materials over time. We did, in addition to this, that didn't make the slide here, we did do one, kind of to show you a basic option, and that was to do the interior lights only, without the dimming switch. And that one was a $2.4 million project, has $187,000 of annual savings with a 12.5-year simple payback on it. So the reason we're exploring this is it has educational benefits, and it also has a payback to it. So it's something that could be worthy of taking a look at this point. Honestly, we're looking at your buildings. The pressing needs right now aren't that huge in your facilities. They're very well maintained, very good shape. So this is an area that we thought would be good to look at. You do have spend to still allocate, and yet here's a spend that you can allocate that has a payback time.
How long did you say the bulbs are good for?
These will last 10 to 20 years.
So pretty much will last about the life of, you'll need to replace them by the time you make your money back, right?
No.
Because if the payback is 15
Well, on
years.
the one out here, yes. So on the high-end project, yes, you would. So I think the way you need to look at that is.
Well, then it would be constant savings then going forward. So basically, you needed them to wash the first period, and then after that, we buy lights going forward. It's going to be you're going to have savings. But
I'm not sure the question. The next generation of lights would be a little bit less expensive because you're just doing that. You're not doing wiring and all that stuff. So the next generation of lamps that you're putting in would be less expensive.
right, especially compared to how much you would be purchasing for that next 15 years, how much you would have been purchasing for that next 15 years, about energy over those next 15 years. So basically, the first set of these is a wash, and then it would be savings after that.
I would say, depending on the option you choose, like the low option that I just described, you're cash flow positive on that. It's 12 years, those are probably the average. Like it's going to be 15 years, it's going to be greater than the payback. On the interior lights only, when you go to the good option, you're getting pretty close to a break-even, basically,
Right.
almost free. You're getting a higher quality light, and that's not including the maintenance cost savings. I can't include that, so you gotta remember. Basically, the low option is essentially it's a wash over the life of the lamps. And then the upper one, I think the way you need to look at that, well, what's the cost differential versus the educational benefit of having the diffused with dropper kits and the dimming capability in the classroom spaces? And that's the only place we can recommend that. We do think there's an educational benefit to that. And the spend would be the difference between those two.
I think one of the things that you have to point out when you look at the simple payback, what's skewing that on this sheet is the stadium lighting. So the stadium lighting typically has a really unattractive payback because there's low burn hours and it's costly to replace. So that's really what's skewing that. The one on the left and right is that the stadium and field house lighting are all included on this, the exterior lighting as well. The payback would be much more achievable than the interior lighting.
And that's another way we could look at it without the stadium, just the interior and exterior. The exterior, I think, from a maintenance perspective, yes, the economics, it doesn't look that good, but when you have to get a lift every time to change a light bulb in there versus putting it up there and not worrying about it for the next 15, 20 years, that's a lot of headaches off the table. So there's that component of the exterior lighting is really expensive.
So, in option A and option B, is the difference difference isn't just the light bulbs, it's actually like the whole
It's
light
the
itself,
control.
It's the
right?
control
So it's
system.
not like you could upgrade to one and then after 15 years upgrade to the other one, you either do one or the other.
One or
right?
the other. And like I said, the only difference is in the class, the educational spaces. That's, we're only addressing the educational spaces. So in the classroom, you have a light diffuser and and we do mock-ups of these all the time, so you can really get a sense of, and that's typically what we do is we will set up a mock-up room so you can see, here's what you have now, here's your basic, your good upgrade, and then here's your better upgrade. So we do 3 rooms rank a row, walk through, see what they have a teacher in there actually experience, and get their opinions on it. So we don't charge, we'd be happy to do that. If there's interest here, we'd certainly do whatever we would want.
I have two, sorry,
Yeah.
I have 2 questions on this. One is, does this include space sensors, or are they still on switches?
We have sensors in this price.
This would include our.
So this would include
It does
occupancy.
include Oculus sensors. They're debatable, in my opinion, in an elementary setting, because the kids are in the room most of the time. And most of the time, teachers pretty good about turning the lights off. So,
And so
that's,
they have a lights helper whose job it is just to turn off the lights when they leave the room.
so, it goes both ways. and-
Employment, is that what you're
You
saying?
know, take their job.
Machines replacing the
There
children's
would
jobs.
be some savings to take the sensor out.
Right.
We could look at the, what the savings is. My experience is, the way you calculate the savings is you assume nobody ever turns the lights off. That's not real. Most of the time, my experience is they're pretty good about turning the lights off. So that the actual savings aren't what the calculated savings are.
But this includes sensors in all of at least the classroom
All
spaces.
Right.
The other piece I have is, so say we do this in a space, and then 5 years from now, we renovate the floor, or like we touch the space. What happens from a cost standpoint, because you've already done the lights, and you're going in, you're touching the space where you often do the lights when you're touching the space? What happens from a cost standpoint?
The only time it would be any impact at all is if you had, for some reason, to tear the ceilings,
Okay.
which you could still keep the lights, which we do frequently. You can string them up, put a new ceiling in. But if you're not, replacing the flooring's not gonna affect it, casework's not gonna affect it, windows aren't gonna affect it. Whiteboards, painting, none of those things you typically do in a classroom are gonna affect the lights unless for some reason there's a need to tear the ceiling down and put new ceilings in. And like I said, even in that case, you can hang the lights up, keep them, and build a new ceiling for it.
So you said you had lighting companies actually come in, so are these pretty
These are
accurate
firm,
numbers?
these are
then?
firm numbers, these are actual firm numbers.
Okay,
And we have it by building, so you could look at
so you
this.
could pick and choose
Right.
pieces of
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
We could slice it and dice it, and
Yes.
mix and match.
Are there any other questions about the light? For the third bucket that we looked at for this summer was the Dewey report. It served as a good baseline for both reports, our LTFM development as well as 2020 for a couple of reasons. One, you guys already had budgeted. Two, but they had also surveyed the facilities. For 2020, what you're seeing, and these are snips from the report, which you can tell there, is 2020 was mostly the under drainage and regrade of the athletic fields on this site. They had field B through H. There was also tennis court repairs that were budgeted for, as well as boiler installation for the pool deck, which we had, replacing the existing intercom PA system for speaker to dialer, which you saw a number for. Again, the emergency generator at Graz, and we don't have the athletic field under drainage and regrade. So what you're seeing is those items that were infrastructure related from this report are in the summer 2020 projects list. We have budgets for them that are revised based off of 2019 pricing on current market field. And then what we don't have, we want to address specifically and let Mark Karowski speak to that. As part of our LTFM process, we're looking at doing a study of the grounds, which Mark is leading and KW is leading that effort. So we have started to look at some of the priorities. We're looking at this site right now, And we feel strongly that we want to have that completed before we make recommendations related to the athletic fields and the site, because we want to have a bigger picture view of where we might be going. So I want Mark to talk a little bit about his progress in the study of the grounds, so that we can start to have that conversation and dialogue with you all to understand what might be important to address from a site perspective. Because when we met, as we've been meeting as a group, we've been looking at a couple things. One is the parking constraint that we have on this site here between the high school, the middle school, and the transportation facility. But also we're looking at improving site safety at other locations. So there are a couple places across the district, some elementary schools, where there's some concerns with the traffic loops, parent-teacher drop-off, and safety and accessibility to those sites. So Mark has also been taking a look at some of those things. We can update you on our progress to that, as well as the athletic fields.
Sorry, Gary, can you go back 2 slides? Because I just want to repeat what I think you just said to make sure that it's clear to everybody, and then to also point out to the board that the slide deck you have, this is one change.
Yeah.
Because they've been updating numbers through the day, and so we had version 12 posted, but version 13 the pencil even got sharper, so that's good. And so this list is a combination of the things that were on the Dewey report, as well as things that Mr. Harper has spoken to us through the year. That's specific to the Central Project, the South Project, and the Transportation Project. Those are 3 things that we've heard about through the year that have become more of a priority. The only thing that is brand new up there that we had not had a conversation publicly about is the pneumatic controls at the high school. So could you, just for the sake of making sure we've said it out loud, can you just tell us what that is, what the scope is, because my belief is that's not just the high school, but
This
maybe it
is
is
just
now.
the high school.
Okay,
That's what
all
we're
right.
doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that is and why that would be a potential
Yeah.
benefit for us over the summer, so that we have that conversation?
Yeah, so there's two pieces to that. And I'll touch on the first one because you did ask us this on Friday, I believe, is there a payback to it? Number one is there is a payback associated with this line item. It's an $87,000 spend, which I think we have an estimated for energy savings around $13,000 annually. So you can see that there's a significant efficiency spend here. There are pneumatic controls in the high school in place. It's a data control system that we would be transferring to DDC controls, automatic controls. And there's obviously some efficiencies that can be achieved in that, but specifically there's a fan inefficiency here, I think, right?
Well, in order to run these controls, you need to have an air compressor, which is a piece of equipment, a reciprocating compressor. It runs 24/7, 365 days a year, it has to run. Uses a significant amount of power. These controls also they're not smart controls, they can only do a single function. So they don't have a computer head end on them that can tell them to do multiple functions and do the more sophisticated sequences that we need to save energy. So they're pretty basically dumb controls. And we want to replace them with smart controls, and we